Work on a super yacht, move up through the ranks, and maximize your potential. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this instructional video of super yacht mooring. You'll notice I managed to get myself a haircut and summer seems to have finally arrived and I'm sporting a rather wonderful farmer's tan. If you haven't watched it already, I suggest that you head over and watch part 1 first. And to recap, we have gotten all of our lines ready, sent our heaving lines ashore, and we have the tails running through the fair leads, ready to make off on the bits. Now for this part, I'm going to need some help, and for that I've got Julian, our deckhand. Julian is not only new to this boat, but also to super yachting in general, so his performance here is a measure of how good my teaching is. I really hope he gets this right. Once again, it's safety first, and as you can see, we are both wearing shoes. Okay, so we have the line running through the fair lead. We now want to run it onto this capstan. We want the line to run in the most direct route possible. We want to avoid going around the bits unnecessarily, putting unnecessary strain on them. It's as simple as straight from the fair lead, past the bit, and onto the capstan. Now you see that Julian has put 3 turns around the capstan. This should be sufficient, for only if you need to take up a great deal of tension will you need to possibly stick on a 4th or even 5th wrap. We now need to consider where we're standing on the deck. You may have heard of a term called snapback zones. It used to be that markings were painted on the decks, not so much on yachts, but on commercial ships, to mark out where the snapback zones were. That is to say, if a line were to fail, where would be the danger zone to be standing, where might it recoil to, and what might it hit in the process. More recently, they changed that to be the case that the whole of the foredeck is considered a snapback zone, and you must be constantly aware of where you're standing. For that reason, only people involved with the mooring operation are allowed at the mooring station. In this instance, the greatest danger zone can be considered here on this side of the line and all the way opposite, as that is the direction in which the line would recoil if it were to snap. Julian will therefore be standing here, and I want to bring your attention to this, the bite of a line. Be very careful, you don't want to go standing in that, because if for whatever reason the line were to surge and run out of the fair lead or move suddenly, that would tighten up around your ankle and take you with it. I'm going to station myself up here out of the way, where I've got a good view of what's going on with the mooring line, good line of communication right opposite Julian, and also the captain was standing up there on the bridge wings. I'll be able to make signals to him as well as use the radio to communicate as necessary. After checking that all is clear over the side and that Julian is ready for me to start hauling, I can simply press the button on my control. The capstan will start turning and the tension will start coming on. As Julian tails the line, he's maintaining good tension on it, and he's throwing the excess line behind him out of the way. It's important to tail the line correctly with just the right amount of tension, otherwise you will develop what is known as a riding turn. Looks a little bit like that. Everything gets all bunched up, gets very tight, and it's very difficult to undo. When not hauling or veering, the line must continue to be held firmly at all times to avoid tension suddenly being lost. You must remember that we're working with really big forces here. If you allow the line to surge freely, then it will generate friction between the rope and the capstan itself. This polyester has a melting point of approximately 265 degrees. If that temperature is reached, then it will start to melt the outside of the rope, which will essentially create a lubricant which will allow the rope to slip uncontrollably on the capstan. Once we are happy with the tension on the line, it's time to transfer it from the capstan to the bitts. For that, we're going to need a stopper line, which I mentioned in part 1. This particular stopper is made of polyester, exactly the same as the line that we want to secure. This is important because you don't want to go mixing different types of mooring lines and stopper lines. For example, mixing polyester with Spectra or Dyneema, or mixing polyester with chains or natural fibres. The stopper line is our key to making sure that the line stays nice and tight. While Julian continues to hold the tail of the line firmly, I'm going to attach my stopper knot to a strong point at the base of the bitts. In this instance, we weren't provided with a D-shackle, which you would ordinarily connect onto. We have this piece of Spectra line, which will hold it equally well. We start by attaching it with a cow hitch. This is known as the West Country stopper and is supposed to be used when using man-made fibre ropes such as this polyester. We then take one overhand knot, which essentially forms the base of the stopper, and we pull it in the direction of the mooring line, recognizing that as tension comes onto this, it's going to want to be pulled in this direction. It's then simply a case of wrapping it around the mooring line once, twice, three times, and then you want to turn down the ends nice and tight. I'm now going to ask Julian to slowly and in a controlled manner release the tail of the mooring line, thereby allowing the tension to come onto this stopper line and off the capstan. Bear in mind that as the tension is going to pull the line this way, your fingers are going to come very close to this fair lead area, and of course if they get trapped beneath the mooring line or between the mooring line and the fair lead, you might well lose one. You'll see now as Julian releases the tension, the weight comes onto the stopper, and now all of the weight is being held here on the stopper. The more tension it's under, the more it's going to want to slip, and so we now want to get it onto the bitts as quickly as possible. So Julian's going to take 2 wraps around the leading bit, and then he's going to run into a figure of 8. And as he does this every couple of turns, it's a good idea to stamp down on the line. Another reason to wear shoes. Give it a good stamp, and that way it reduces the amount of tension that will be lost when the tension comes on to the rope around the bitts. Tension can now be released on the stopper knot. Being careful again, there's a lot of tension here and you don't want it to slip suddenly. And as we release tension here, it will all be transferred to the bitts. See how I'm keeping my fingers out of the way. And there it is. The line is all turned up on the bitts. Thank you so much to Julian for helping me out with this one. I like to think that he did a pretty good job. I'd also like to say sorry to our chef, who I unfortunately woke up by operating the capstan early on a Sunday morning. Just one of the many considerations that must be taken into account when you're living and working with others in the same space. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. If you like this, please hit that thumbs up and don't forget to click that subscribe button to stay notified of when new videos come out. You may have noticed that the teak on our yacht is looking a little bit weathered and in time for a spruce up. So we'll be taking care of that this coming week. You can look forward to scrubbing the teak with the two-part process and all the fun and hard work that goes with it. Please let me know of anything else you'd like me to cover in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you next time.